Hello, creative people. This is Catherine with the Motley Art, and I have a video where I've decided for January 2022 I was going to make a little like traveler's notebook 6x6 instead of doing individual scrapbook pages. So that's what I put together here, and I'm using the Candid Moments Scrapbook Workshop from Close to My Heart. Check the description for links and more information. And I decided that I just really wanted to try this out. I thought it would be kind of fun, a little bit different. I probably will have to use a lot less dimension than I've been doing in some of my previous layouts because I personally don't like it when your book kind of alligators out, as they say, gets the wider mouth. I like them to still kind of close a little bit more naturally. So the interior pages, I probably won't use that much dimension, but that's okay. I think that's going to be some of the fun of it, and just kind of give a different look, different type of style. So I really enjoy the look of this particular workshop kit, these pattern papers. I think they're really fun and vibrant, and I'm just really excited to work with them. So I just kind of created a little background there to start with, and some of the cutouts have letters in them and words. So one of the inspiration designs that I'm using, it had "this is our" and then "story," but that doesn't really apply to me. So I decided to just use the "this" and the "story." And with the "this," I wanted to go ahead and darken the bottom with papaya. I think this is really more of the peach color for Close to My Heart, but the papaya then is a darker pink that coordinates really well with it, and it just gives it a nice ombre look. So I went ahead and did that first, and you could see that was just some paper that I used, a scrap paper that I've been stamping on top of so I don't make a mess on my cutting mat. And then the story is actually these die cuts out of this like wood grain that's more like chipboard, kind of like a thin chipboard. It's really nice, and it gives its own bit of dimension. So this is how I decided I wanted to arrange it, and because it's thicker, you see the little tabs when the perforated tabs, you kind of see those a little bit more. So I did go ahead and kind of trim those off from each of the letters and from the brackets. Now again, I kind of switched that up a little bit from the inspiration piece. They had the brackets around story, but I kind of liked the idea of putting the brackets around this. I thought it just gave it a better contrast. So but then I didn't like the white edges on story, so I took out one of my distress markers and went around the edges. And you can use any markers you want for this. This is just the vintage photo. I thought it would just look really good. Would be a similar color to what these particular chipboards are, and it does match really well. So that's why I used that. And I just think it helps to make the chipboard look a little bit more finished. So I just like the look of that. Sometimes, I do this, sometimes I don't. It just kind of depends on how the overall look feels to me, and I just thought there was too much white, and so I wanted to knock some of that back. So it takes a few minutes, of course, to go around all of these items. And when you're doing this, you want to try to take your time because sometimes the ink has to sink in a little bit, and then you might have to go back over a spot a second or third time. I've just found that happens. And when I was gluing these down, I found a couple of spots that I missed, but they were so small I didn't think it would make a big deal, so I didn't go back over them. But that's just, personal preference. So then I also they had a few die cuts of these sort of flowery, but kind of like doodly look you know, more of a doodle flower look. And I just thought this one had just a little too much white on it. So I took the papaya and my blender brush and I added a little bit more color to it. In real life, it's a little bit darker than when it's showing up on my screen, but I didn't really saturate it. I made the middle a little bit darker and then kind of paler around the edges. I just wanted to give it some color, but I didn't want it to be like a dark pink. And I think that looked really nice. I think it just knocks it back a little bit. The stark white, I just felt like it was drawing your attention, and I didn't want it to be the main focus. So I just think this really knocked it back in a really nice way. And if you really like these kind of like doodly flowers, I do believe there's a stamp set with this collection that has similar looks to it, but I think it's fun for this, but I couldn't see myself using it all the time, so that's why I didn't purchase the stamp set for myself. But if this is your style and you really love it, then you should check that out. So I also wanted a little bit of bling. I wanted to bring in a little bit more sparkle, so I took out this is some Cricut vinyl glitter paper that I have where I've cut them into strips so that I can use them like this. And I just put one there on my background. I think it's really nice. Gives you a nice subtle bit of shine without being like in your face. And the glitter paper, this like vinyl glitter paper, is so nice because it does not come off at all. It's just really easy to work with. So then I'm going to start and put down all of my sentiments. And I really do love that ombre effect on this. I think it does just give it a little extra oomph. And so this is something definitely you can do with any sentiment that you cut out. If you have a Cricut machine or another die cutting machine, or even if you have like the alphabet die cuts, you could just add a little bit of ink onto that and it just really gives it a beautiful effect. Now with the story, I did lay this back out again. I'm always afraid that I'm going to put down this type of lettering, that I'm going to put it down and run out of space, which is the worst. You don't want that. So I put it back down, but then I also did start in the middle, because if you start in the middle and you work out, then you have a little bit more wiggle room. If you start at the beginning of a word and you start to run out, there's not much you can do about that. So, but I think I got these spaced out pretty nicely. I wasn't going for perfection here. I don't mind if they're a little wonky. I think that kind of looks nice. This is a little bit more, I feel like this layout is a little bit more doodly, free-formed. It doesn't have to be precision. So once I got that all down, I decided to add some rhinestones on there on the flowers. I think that just makes a nice little extra bling for them. And then I decided that I wanted to stamp out January 2022 onto this particular book. And I'm just using some scrap paper. So whenever I use my white paper, my white cardstock, any little bits of scrap, I have a bag that I put them in specifically for stamping like sentiments onto them. I think this is a really good way to use up that extra scrap paper without having to throw a whole bunch away. So that's what I took out, was just this little bit of scrap, and I stamped onto it. And again, like I said, I'm not looking for perfection here. Actually, that particular stamp set is called Modern Typewriter Alphabet, and I kind of like when that's a little bit wonky. I think it just, I don't know, it just gives it some character that I really like. So I did stamp out the January very well. I mean, I got that almost completely in line, but I don't know what happened with the numbers. I could not seem to line those up. But that's okay. I think it gives it that extra little bit of something, you know? And then I tried to decide where I wanted to put this. I did kind of chop the corners there to make it look a little bit more like a tag. And if I had moved that story down a little bit, I think this would have looked really nice in between this and the story. But I had already glued it down, so I couldn't move it. So I just decided that this would be fun to put at the bottom. And I really think it balances this whole composition out really nicely. So I'm really excited about working in this little book, and I can't wait to see what I do for next video. If you can't wait either, please subscribe, and I hope you have a very creative day.